Hello, my name is Louis Herms, founder of Screw Big Gov. We genuinely appreciate your support to Screw Big Gov in our efforts to keep all this fantastic content absolutely free to the public. Therefore, we'd love you to check out our high-quality Screw Big Gov swag, such as t-shirts, hats, and much, much more, or our cutting-edge healing and nutritional products that help you be the best you can be, including super flavorful mycotoxin and mold-free coffee. We even offer a secure place to purchase gold and silver, or you can donate directly to Screw Big Gov. You must know that I have personally vetted each and every product and service to make sure we only supply to you, our SBG family, the very, very best. All vendors on our platform are informed that if they do not live up to the SBG standards, they will be removed indefinitely. Just visit screwbiggov.com/shop. screwbiggov.com. Thank you so much for your support. Hello, everybody. This is Louis Herms from Screw Big Gov, and I am extraordinarily thrilled to have this gentleman on the show. Many of you may not know him, which I think is a great thing because he's got some very impactful information. His name's Tyler McEnroe, and Tyler, welcome to the show. How are you doing, brother?
Good, Louis. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I greatly appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. So let's just get right to it. Maybe start off and tell me a little about your story and your background, and then we'll acclimate people to your information because it's pretty extraordinary, in my opinion.
Cool. Appreciate it. To start, basically, I grew up in upstate New York on the Hudson River, not on the river, but in a little town, small town around there, about 75 miles outside of New York City. Um, when I was like 12 years old, I got recruited to prep school to play basketball, football, and baseball, a junior boarding school in Connecticut. And a lot of just my youth gave me an opportunity to be cultured because I was going to school with kids that, came from other countries and whatnot, very young in my life. I was also not a wealthy kid, but was in a school with a bunch of wealthy people. So it opened my eyes up to a lot of things about the difference of being, a middle class, lower class person to an upper class person, and just also being cultured, being around, people from China and Japan and Brazil or whatever when I was young. But I was always into sports and not really into spirituality or anything like that. And then when I was 20 years old, my best friend got in a drunk driving accident and died. I was about to move in with him like a week later, and we were going to two different colleges, and it was a pretty crazy thing. But when it happened, about 4 or 5 months later, I started having these dreams with him, and he was directly speaking to me saying, "Hey, I'm dead. You can communicate with me. I'm not going to be able to communicate with any of our other friends. A lot more things are going to open up for you, and tragedy down the road will happen in our circle." So, which it did. I'll get into that more later. But when that happened, my whole kind of direction in life shifted. I was only 20 years old, but I started researching things like channelings and other type of different spiritual content. I was already kind of into conspiracy theories after 9/11, and I got way, way more even into it once this break happened and death. And sometimes when traumatic things happen, they have spiritual openings for you. So in that process, as I began to research and learn things about conspiracy theories or whatnot, I read a lot of different books. I don't know if you ever heard of the books by Robert Frizzle called "Something in This Book is True, but It's Exactly How Things Are." "Nothing in This Book is True, but It's Exactly How Things Are." Great conspiracy books. I read those, almost 12, 13 years ago. They really open your eyes up to things like the Philadelphia experiment, different things like the activation of your Merkaba, the 12 strands of DNA, all types of different things about conspiracy of the government. One of the things they talk about in the second one is that, hey, there's a reason that Kennedy and Lincoln were the only two presidents got assassinated, because it was about them, one, trying to get rid of the Federal Reserve is what they put in that book. But, it could even be even more to the Christ, Satan bloodline. I don't know how much you've really heard about that, but there's the whole Jesus strand docs and that information that came out. So that was interesting, but still early on, I was interested in all this stuff. So of course, when 2011, 2012 came around, I was really big on the Mayan calendar and, the world coming to an end, what was really happening, because I believed it was a spiritual, awakening and all this stuff was happening. And at the same time, I started getting into numerology, and by accident, not knowing back then that the satanic agenda is all about inversion and reverting things and trying to alter what truth is, I started noticing that numerology didn't make a lot of sense. Like, why would, if you add up every number, if you add up a date and it equals 33, but you add up a date and it equals 24, is the person that equaled up to 24 a 2, 4/6? But a person that equals to 33 is just a 33.
Yeah.
Like, come on. So, I started getting way into that. And then I met this guy named Dan Millman, wrote the Life Purpose System. He also wrote No Ordinary Moments, very basic spiritual book. The Peaceful Warrior, I don't know if you ever heard of that. He had really good things about consciousness that were just about being present in the now and not allowing little things like, oh, I went after a girl and she didn't like me, so now I feel that I'm ugly. It's like, nah, people have different perspectives of who they like. You know what I mean? Little simple things to not get caught up in your head. And then he wrote this book about numerology. I ended up going to a seminar of his, and he was like, you're looking way deep in this. And I'm like, well, can I expand on it? He's like, yeah, go crazy. And then after that, we just me and my brother started seeing it and different things. And then I started having breaks in my dreams with my friend. And when you dream lucidly, there's this, I'm blanking on the name of an old movie, but it's this old movie that was in it was a cartoon movie, came out in late 2000s.
Real quick, when you say dream lucidly, are you talking about in colors, like full dimensional?
No, lucid dreaming basically means that you're aware you're in 4D, you're in the astral realm. What happens with a lot of people when they dream lucid, they may become aware, but they allow the dream to just pull them. Okay.
Right.
What you can do in the lucid state, and I got blessed that my friend was the trigger for me, that when you get in that lucid state, you can trigger that you're in the dream. And when you do that, then you can control it. So there's lucid dreaming where I'm aware that I'm in a dream and I can fly and I'm just kind of doing different things. A lot of people, when they first lucid dream, they fly, because they always wanted to, things like that. But in reality, when you lucid dream, it's an opportunity to use the fourth dimension to tap into your Akashic records. Akashic records are known from spiritual spaces, your past lives, things like that, alternative lives, whatever. And these things started happening to me, mainly because Steve's my friend that first died. He would be in my dream, and then that would trigger in my mind, you're in a dream. And then
very cool. I see.
I would have these successive dreams over a number of nights, and then we would solve some problem by the end of it, and then a door would open, and I would go into Atlantis, or I'd go into a Lemuria life, or I'd go into an Egypt life. And still, it's been happening for well over a decade that I have different things that will trigger me into old past lives. A lot of what spiritual people will consider this is it's remembering. I'm not accessing your Akashic records of your past lives isn't really it is opening a vault, but it's opening a vault of your own memories, and some people like to have a dream log and write their things down. When I have these really impactful dreams, I don't need to write it down. And I remember it. I've had dreams where I got my head cut off in Egypt, all kinds of wild stuff.
I hate when that happens.
I don't really honestly, a biggest thing about and I'm going to talk about this more when we get a little more into this talk, is dealing with the astral fourth dimension. And in that space is where the dark, the dark energy exists and really control. That's where all the Lucian comes from. That's where a lot of possessions and, there's two different types of cords you can get. Astral cording, it's called. You either get parasites, which most people naturally deal with parasitic cords, which are where we get bad habits from, where we might wake up in the morning and need to have your space because you get a little angry or frustrated. People have different kind of things that trigger them. A lot of that is from astral parasites that kind of try to keep you in your ego. I try to always imagine that first and foremost, my body is a vehicle for my soul. It's temporary. My soul just chose to be here, just like everybody else's soul chose to be here. But even more, then you have these cords that they can connect to you, that these parasites can. And when you see, people that have demonic cords or possession, it usually tends to have to do with, them being diagnosed with MS or schizophrenia or, bipolar or, and typically then they get diagnosed with, certain kinds of pharmaceutics to take. And then that's what even more lets those cords connect, because the pharmaceutical company is all messed
Right.
up, whatever. But all right, so that's like basically an introduction to what I am. I wrote this book, I Am Love, The Application of Healing, with my brother, about the numerology system we discovered. This was a logo that I designed years ago. The whole concept was, I honestly wish I put two eyes in there, but I didn't really fully grasp the one eye symbolism. But the whole idea was, is that that's the Illuminati pyramid. The overseeing eye sees the bricks. So the bricks we turned into an eye of flow, and the pupil is like the earth symbol.
I see that. That's pretty cool.
And then the eye would be covered by the heart, because it's like they're gone. They ain't got nothing left for us, But so yeah, so let's get started. I'm gonna share my screen a little bit and kind of go through some things. I honestly do all my stuff off donation. The first year we made it like available online, and like I can't even begin to tell you how combated it was by Amazon. Like they were doing all this ridiculous stuff to me. Like they wouldn't let me send a box of books to them of 30, but I would get like 60. The first like 2 weeks, we got like 67 orders. And they wanted me to break it all down day by day and mail them like 6 books that day, 7 books that day, just so they could send it out. And then they made all my books on sale on Amazon for 55% off. So the first check they ever sent us was for like $1.15, and I sold like 86 books on it. And I'm like, I'm not selling you any more books. And still today, they red flag blackballed my Amazon account. They just shut it down.
Right.
I get emails, and I could even show you this. I get emails all the time from Kindle, because my book's been on Kindle for 7 years. I've never gotten one payment. Literally I'll go to them and like, yo, I can't get on the Amazon account, and they'll talk to me on the phone or whatever, and they'll be like, oh, we fixed it. And then they just hang up on me. They send me an email to say they fixed it, and then they never fix it. Because it's like, if I took them to court, they'd probably be like, look, we emailed that he fixed it. He's crazy. He doesn't know what he's seeing, and they can probably fix it in a second. You know what I mean? So it's like, I've heard other people have problems with Amazon, but like they really like are so in control of content and information and what has success. It's all based on what Amazon stands for, A Mason, what they want and what they want people to see. And like, and then I didn't really get it, but now learning all the things I've learned in the last 2 years, it's easier for me to look back and see it and see what kind of combative stuff was towards it. But I do it all for donation. Anybody wants one, they can just email me, and I'll mail them one.
So in the description below, you would prefer me to put your email link? Is that what you want me to do?
Yeah, you can just put my email link. It's just,
okay. That's what I'll do.
NewEarthConnect at Gmail. Everything's just NewEarthConnect. My Telegram's NewEarthConnect. My Instagram's NewEarthConnect, and all that. But,
perfect. We'll take care of that.
Let me walk through some of this stuff real quick. I got to share the screen. I want to just start with. Okay, so this is Ian Lungold. I was going to play some of his video, but because of time, I don't really need to super play it. But Ian Lungold put this presentation out about the Mayan calendar, and I'm real quickly going to go over to his site here. And Ian, incredible guy. He put this out in 2004. He suddenly died in 2005, and he was supposedly extremely healthy in his early 50s. And he's the one that broke down that the Mayan calendar, as you can see here, is broken into 9 levels, and every single level was another step of evolution. Okay.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And back here, it started 16.4 billion years ago. Yeah, I mean, the Big Bang Theory, I don't necessarily believe in anymore. We know it was started by a Jesuit, so sure. I also think Ian did this 15, 17 years ago. So I think if he was still alive, he'd have other types of information. But I still think this presentation is really good to watch and get information from, because he breaks down throughout it. As you can see, it goes faster, because what you had to do was, here it is. See how he has all these day, night, day, night, day, night, day, night. So basically all of these cycles, the 13 days, fit into this cellular one. And then the whole total amount, where he does the calculations up here, 64 billion years, and then he divides it. Basically, that's how long it took. 16.4 billion years for that whole cycle to finish. But the last 13th one is like this entire one, the mammalia one, fit in it. So it just kept getting smaller and smaller.
I get it. That's extraordinary.
Yeah. So when you got all the way to the universal cycle, here we are, I believe at the bottom, the cellular one, this was happening every like 3 or like I don't know. I can't think about. Maybe I should look at my book. I have it written in here. I want to get the facts right, so let me just look at it real quick. So I get the amount of time it was. The first one. Okay. Yeah, 1.26 billion years it took for one cycle to end for the first one, for you to get through one of these days, nights. And then when you got all the way to the ninth one, and this was in 2011, it happened every 18 days. So you went from 1.26 billion years of an evolution cycle happening all the way to 18 days. And it was crazy that year. I'm not gonna lie. In 2011, there was a lot of content coming out on the internet. There's a lot of things. There's all this truth coming out about the Mayan calendar ending at the end of 2011, not at the end of 2012, and all about that. So I want to just show everyone this because I know Jason recently has been talking about the Mayan calendar more and whatnot, and this is kind of where that information evolved from like an originality space. I'm sure that's where he got the October 28th, 2011 thing from.
Real quick,
yeah, I mean,
for those of you that don't know, Tyler's talking about Jason Q.
Yeah. If anybody doesn't, I feel like everybody that follows you knows who, when I speak about Jason, who I'm talking about. But all right, so yeah, I want to just, this is kind of my like cheat sheet here to go through things. I want to talk a little bit about dimensions. So let me unshare this for a second so we can just kind of go through that. But yeah, so I mean, in my book, I break down how dimensions work, and I think it's important that everybody kind of has a better understanding of this. So like the third dimension is obviously the physical reality. So when you're looking at what's happening in the agenda right now, what I always try to do is take a step back from a viewpoint standpoint. I'm not approaching life as my viewpoint and what I see. I'm looking at it from a cultural space, an evolution of humanity space, what the dark elite agenda is trying to do to keep our vibration low all the time. How are they trying to do that? From my research, what I understand is when Atlantis and Lemuria fell about 9 to 10,000 years ago, there was this whole dark period, and that between that period was when basically the Draconians and all of them came down and really took over. And when Egypt was evolved or started 6,000 years ago, that's when like the satanic agenda started. That's when they really started doing banking and control over human beings and just in general. If that makes sense. Maybe they started banking later, but you know what I mean. They started using financial suppression over people, or whatever, just making money necessary. But yeah, so I mean, those things are from a 3D standpoint of what physically happens to us. What you do see in society a lot, and especially in the New Age Jesuit agenda, and I'm going to go back, kind of share a screen on this in a second, is that they have this concept called 3D to 5D. I'm sure you've heard 3D to 5D a lot. The reason that they market that so much in the Jesuit New Age agenda, let me bring this graphic up real quick.
So glad you're bringing this up. I had so many questions in regards to this.
So if we go to, hold up, let me go to my emails up here. Boom, this is what I want to show you. Now, this is a direct screenshot from the Charlie Freak A to Z Trump doc. Of him going around the world, and you know what I'm talking about. Most people do. Reason I took this out is because, you know, Jason talks about the Jesuit agenda all the time. Most people are pretty much aware of Illuminati, Mafia, Masons, International Bank, all this stuff, but people like to ignore New Age movement, etc. And a lot of that is that they knew spiritual things were going to happening. A lot of the really like authentic channelings, which I'm going to bring up a picture right now of one of the original authentic channelings, was this book called Bringers of the Dawn, Teaching of the Palladians. And it was this woman, Barbara, hold up, right here. More Jesuit stuff. This one right here, Bringers of the Dawn, Teaching of the Palladians, by Barbara McEnroe. I can never pronounce her last name. But regardless of it, this channeling happened from 1988 to 1992. And basically, a lot of the channelings that you see out, I don't know how much you look at them, but I know a lot of people are getting really involved in this Galactic Federation stuff.
Tyler, real quick, it's showing your original document. I think you clicked on something, but it's only showing your bullet points. Did you have something else that you were showing here? Or did I miss it?
You guys didn't see any of this? Oh boy, hold up.
Nope.
Stop share. Let me do it again. My fault. I was trying to show you other things. Yeah. Oh, I know why I did it. It's this, because I needed to share just this. All right.
There we go. You got it now.
Yeah, so you guys didn't even see that Jesuit thing. Let me go back to. I was wondering. All right.
Oh wow, that's cool too.
That one's cool too. Yeah, I just want to show this one first though. Okay, this is the one that's straight from his from the doc I was saying about in the
Right.
new movements over here in the corner. So it's just they needed to, the whole Jesuit dark elite agenda knew that there was going to be a spiritual awakening coming. They've known this for a long time,
Hmm.
and they needed to have a grasp over where the next level of awakening comes from. So let me just go back real quick and show the one image I was just showing, Bringers of the Dawn, which is, yeah, this, if you want to read stuff, if you want to learn about channelings, this is a book that I suggest you read. This, it goes really in on a lot of the things that people are putting out now, and a lot of the channelings to me now are people taking stuff like this. And this other guy, Creon, put out at least 20-30 books of channelings. A lot of people take that content that was available in the 90s and in the 2000s, and now they're using it again now to like market their business and act like they just discovered this stuff and that kind of stuff. That kind of bothers me when people are trying to make money off the truth, when it's like, this information's been out here for so long. But we'll
Sure.
go into that a little bit more later. But yeah, this Jesuit graphic's pretty cool. Talks about like the Black Pope and the family, the main dominant families, and where they're associated based on, the area, of the world that they live in. It's just how they control everything, and Jason talks about this stuff all the time, that the Jesuits are just, it's all about them. So in general, the reason I started bringing up the 3D to 4D stuff is because that is, that's a lot of what, this stuff's about. Is they don't want you to know about 4D because that's where all the dark agenda exists. And before I brought up the pharmaceutic stuff a little bit, I wanted to bring this up because um, it's a good basis to start with when I go through all the new age different content that people get wrapped up in. A lot of what they do within our society when it comes to like partying and things like that too, they want to get people taking prescription drugs, and then they want to get you drinking alcohol.
Hmm.
Prescription drugs I'm putting in here associated with magic, witchcraft, knowledge, herbs, poisonous plants, and sorcery. It's been known for a while that it's about dark pharmaca means like dark magic potions and stuff like that. I don't know if anybody's seen this stuff, but the reason that it's called that is because it was never intended to be able to heal you. It was intended to lower your frequency and then also let dark entities basically into your reality. Hold on, I got one more picture of this. And that's like why I was talking about the astral cords and things like that before. Oh man, no, this isn't what I want. Yeah, this is a little write up about it from this one cosmic light force thing. He talks about how pharmaca means drugs, and it has all this different dark thing. And basically the whole reason I'm bringing this up is because between that and I had a picture. Yeah, this is the alcohol picture. Alcohol, the originally meaning of it is body eating spirit. And
Hmm.
that's why it's just an open thing for people to do. And it's been lowering people's vibrations for thousands of years, like they say here. But in general, I feel that a lot of their agenda is to try to get people in these different psychological things, like they have, PTSD, or they have, if they're a narcissist is a lot. If they have, issues with focus, any type of like thing that you'll get diagnosed by the regular doctors, they're going to prescribe you pharmaceutics, and then, they never tell you not to drink or whatever. They just let people go off and drink like crazy, and like that
Hmm.
mixing creates yeah, I'll stop sharing for a second. That mixing of everything, it gives these dark entities an opportunity to grab onto you, to your being, with you not knowing, and then operating you. And just, I always like to use our bodies as the example is like of a car. And we wake up every day and people just go and they turn their key and they drive their car. You don't know what's under the hood unless you're a mechanic. the whole point of you not knowing your spiritual energy and them wanting to not let like the real zodiac chart be out and the real measurements and all that stuff, and the reason they don't want the numerology thing that I put together to be out in people's worlds, because it would help them learn about what's under their hood and make them more self-aware and make them harder to control from an astral space. So that's why the New Age thing started this whole agenda. We're like, we want to make sure they don't understand 4D and shadow work. It will be out there a little bit, but let's just really promote 3D to 5D. So people go, oh man, I'm waking up out of 3D. I see government corruption. I see issues with food. They poison us with the chemtrails. They suppress us with money. I'm awake. But you're not that awake. You're awake to 3D. And then 4D, everybody just wants to skip and say, I'm going to go to the spiritual stuff, love and light, and I'm just going to be all positive. And most of the people that get caught up in the New Age woke agenda or any of the New Age stuff are people who have a lot of trauma. They see the 3D world for the trauma it brought on their life. They step out of it. They get into the spiritual stuff, and then they feel like they're awake because they have all these spiritual content like twin flames and all these different things that come into your reality, and you're like, oh, I get it, I'm awake, and it's like, if it's that easy to figure out, it's not that easy. There's no way that they're going to be putting these spiritual awakening concepts in the mainstream in your face, and like a lot of people don't also look at like Instagram as like a mainstream thing, but it is like to Twitter, Facebook, any content you see in there is still mainstream just as much as watching the TV is. All right, let me see what I'm shifting to now.
So
yeah, go ahead.
With the whole 3D to 4D to 5D, where did this come from? I would like to call them concepts, but I guess everybody believes it. So where did that come from? What's the origin of that, and how did we get that information that's even real, that there are dimensions and so on and so forth? How do we know that's not all just BS? Also, I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying, I love to dig in and try to figure this out, because everybody jumps on 3D, 4D, 5D immediately, but they have no context for speaking of it. So what do you believe it is?
Most of that stuff comes from channelings, and when there was this website called the Galactic Roundtable, and I've
heard of that. Yeah.
They literally just knocked it off the internet in 2012. It was up from like 2009 to the middle of 2012. In September of 2012, they organized a giant worldwide global meditation. 2 days later, site gone.
Yeah.
And, and then and that site was back then when they would put a lot of channelings up, and that's when you'd get, Archangel Michael speaks about 3D to 5D. Archangel Metatron, you know what I mean? It speaks about twin flames. And it's just, at the time, you don't know. You're trying to, it was such a, like kind of like a backdoor secret kind of culture back then to even look into channelings and read this type of content, especially people your age group. My age group didn't even have any clue really about it back then when I was like in my early 20s. But for the most part, if you were like into those really deep spiritual things like aliens and channelings, when, for your generations, when you're born like 60s or 70s, Lewis?
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, you're kind of already labeled as a little bit of a kook that you even look at it. You know what I mean? So that was a lot of like, they knew from the 40s all the way to now that there was going to be this whole awakening. They were going to do the whole, I'm going to talk about festivals a lot in a little bit, but they knew they were going to do Woodstock way before. That's why they said, here, Timmy Leary and all you Woodstock people, here's all the acid from we're going to the CIA. We're going to make you acid and you go give it to everybody, because it's acid has always been something that they want to test the overall consciousness of everybody. And I'm not a big fan of acid. I go to festivals. I think psychedelics are very healing. I know Nick Alvarez is really big on it. I don't know if I said his last name right, but I know Nick
Alviar, you were close.
Alviar, yeah. I know I know I said his Zez, but he knows he's definitely done plant medicine and gets it. You know what I mean? Like psilocybin or mushrooms. It's no different than cannabis. Like there's 80 or something different strains of psilocybin, of mushrooms, that there is just like cannabis, and it's legal in a couple states. In Washington, I think Colorado legalized it for medical purposes, and a lot of that type of stuff is like doing it, correctly and with the right intentions. But when you go to these like party festivals, people are just doing psychedelics to get fucked up, and that's like not the idea. And personally, I feel like acid is a synthetic version of adrenochrome. I might be wrong, I might not, but the whole process of what it does in the culture of like the festivals and people that consistently do it and see people get spun out on it, where it's called a spunion, where they literally take 2 tabs one day, 10 the next day, 20 the next day, because you got to keep doing more, and they just get so out of their mind that they're lost. And like, that's the thing, man. There's a whole culture in the festival world that's really based off the new age, but it's also like this space that allows like the 4D realm to be accessed.
Mm-hmm.
When you do psychedelics, you're literally going into the 4th dimension. So when people just do that with no intentions of going in the 4D or doing it to get fucked up or whatever, then they're to trip, they're just going to get attacked. And you see a lot of people take acid or mushrooms and do too much of it and get to have demons or things attack them and whatnot.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So do you feel like the new age was created by the baddies or just infiltrated by the baddies?
I think everything's been infiltrated by the baddies because they're not creative. I think what they do is they take information and go, okay, this could raise the frequency of humanity. Let's invert it. Let's alter it. But they need it. They need the truth a little bit, because our souls wouldn't go to it unless we felt something resonate. The old saying of resonate. So what they do a good job with the media and more like with movies and television is they make everybody feel like there is one special person on the planet for you. They use soulmates back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, and then it started wearing off. So now they're using twin flames. And I got really caught up in the twin flame thing a lot myself. And, that's part of why I'm aware of a lot of these things, because I got caught up in them myself. And then I started realizing there's something off about them. And, the twin flame thing, like everybody really wants to find that one love, and that, they've really used it. And like, I'll share screen and just show a couple things to you real quick about this, but there's things that raise a red flag for me right away when I see, when I see certain content come out, and then I see specific people looking at it. So just real quick here, I can get out of this. Let's go to Google real quick. If you just do a simple research on, I don't even like using Google, but even just do twin flames, okay? They'll have all these articles come out. There's all these recent ones. April 29, 2022, they're marketing twin flames on brides.com. How about Machine Gun Kelly just made a song called Twin Flame? This is, I hope you know who he is, with how crazy satanic him and his freaking girlfriend are, his wife there or whatever. So that right there should trigger people. Wait a second. If they're marketing twin flame on a mass scale like this, there must be something up with it. And a lot of what it comes down to with this, and the reason I brought this up, is that if you read what they say about twin flames is, they say there's a runner chaser. And it's this whole, they have all these different things about one person's awake, the other person's asleep. And it's all this like duality of how someone has to wake the other one up. And then you go read psychological studies about something called trauma bonding, and it's the exact same thing. Literally what they have done is they've gotten spiritual people to be seeking out these twin flames, and then finding themselves a lot in trauma bonds. And trauma bonds typically come from, it's like this empath narcissist. It's more people who have more spiritual energy and their souls are a little more evolved. And then they have past life ties to a keeper, a possessor, a person that's darker, that has narcissistic tendencies, that wants to control them. And then what the spiritual person will do is go, oh, they're just the runner and I'm the chaser. And they come up with all these reasons of why to keep staying with the person. The minute a narcissist finds out that you think that you're their twin flame, they're going to use that against you. Narcissists use the word love so much to try to get people to stay connected to them or keep people. And that's part of what the elite agenda wanted to do right now. Psychologically, they wanted to create a lot of narcissistic people. And if you study narcissism at all, basically just the basic meaning of narcissism is, our narcissistic behavior is just control. And they need to control situations. They need to control moments. There are really bad ones like sociopath or schizophrenic narcissists. There's also, victim narcissists. There's a lot of victim narcissists like that. You see a lot of people in relationships right now that are that they will say, "Oh, I feel so sorry for my partner." If you ever hear someone say they feel sorry for their partner, that means they're with a victim narcissist, because they're victimizing themselves to get you to feel sorry about them. So a lot of with me too, like when I went to school, I did psychology and I studied all that stuff because I wanted to kind of know what the prescribed idea was, and found out basically it wasn't. It was just a bunch of nonsense or whatnot. But all right, so what do I got next here? Does
I
that
could
all
see
make
you
sense
can
or
piss
whatnot?
off some new agers,
Oh, for sure.
which I think is a good thing, because I don't, I think what happens is not an attack on new age at all, but in every single group, especially we're in a movement of enlightening. We really are. But the problem is we all think we're already enlightened, which is not even close to being true, right? We have so much farther to go. I'm so open to learning this stuff, but what I find is, and you nailed it, is not just twin flames, but people attach themselves. Now, what people should realize is, which is very interesting, is that not what we are trying to get away from? Is attaching ourselves to a category, attaching ourselves to a person, idolizing something or something, right? So I can see how you frustrate people, but we need to be awake to this, because what you're teaching, and I really appreciate it, is you're really teaching people it's okay to be open, but don't categorize yourself, because if I'm right, you literally just put a box around yourself and now you're not learning anymore.
So on the other side of the twin flame stuff, some of the original teachings speak about twin flames, but if you read the Bringers of the Dawn book, the chapter 20, I'll never forget it. It's the reason it brought me to it. It's called Sexuality, the Bridge to Higher States of Consciousness. Okay. And in that chapter, it talks about twin flame is not something that you find outside yourself. It's in you. Every person has a divinity of a masculine and feminine energy. We've been both male and female in past lives many a times. I've had dreams. My first life in Atlantis, I was a woman. I know it. You know what I mean? My second life, I was a male in Atlantis. We lived longer for a couple thousand years. My soul name, I'll bring this up now, is Zaiba Ali, because I get addressed in past lives as Zaiba. And then Ali to me always meant like risen. So, and I also like the idea of like I being one and AL being all one. So that's kind of like why I named myself Zaiba Ali. But in my first dreams, I'll have these dreams in Atlantis where I'm a woman named Zai, and then I'll have another set of dreams where I'm a male named Ba, and then in Egypt I'm Zaiba, in Lemuria I'm Zaiba. It's interesting that I have those breaks. But the reason I'm bringing up the twin flame stuff is that it's inside of us, and life's about really connecting with divine unions. And in that chapter in Bringers of the Dawn, it says, look, you're not tied or bound to anybody forever. You need to be with somebody that helps you grow. And the moment that relationship isn't harboring growth anymore, then you terminate it and you move on. It doesn't need to be this whole, well, we got to work at it. If you're forcing yourself to stay stagnant with somebody because you're working at it, what are you working on? Like it's either you're collectively growing or you're not, and like what I've noticed too in my own personal experience with dreams is I got caught up in the twin flame thing. I had dreams about this one woman in past lives and I thought that she was it. And then I started realizing, and as things started breaking in me over time, had some different things also happen in my dreams that made me see that, all right, well, I actually have a divine union to her, but I also have a divine union to another woman. And it made me break out of the idea that there was just one specific person for me. You know what I mean? But like a lot of New Agers, they're stuck on twin flame. They got to find it. They got to read about it. They got to feel it. They got to think about it. So it's just something I really thought that was important that we bring up when we speak about, because it leads me right into the next thing, which is political or polyamory. Do you know what polyamory is?
Yeah.
Huge festival thing, huge new age thing. It's a whole concept of free love, of this idea that you can have multiple lovers, whatever. The biggest thing that they've done with us in society with porn and sexuality and everything is try to get us away from realizing that is a sacred experience, sacred energy exchange. So when you're opening your frequency to different people all the time, because you're polyamory, you're literally allowing different chords to connect to you. So if I'm a person and I'm carrying different traumatic cords or different astral parasites, maybe I have a demonic cord, and then someone has sex with me, they can pick those cords up. and then take those cords to someone else. So if you're the elite agenda and you are aware of all these things, that we loosh out of 4D, we take all their sexual energy, we take all their happiness, all their joy, and that's what we control. We don't want them to know about 4D. Then that's why they bring up something and they create things like polyamory. So people have a reason spiritually to go, I'm open to free love, rather than being like I said originally, you go one person at a time, and when it doesn't, there's no more growth, you move on to someone else. That's what they don't want you to wait for. Just as much as they want to tear the family apart in 3D. The 3D agenda is tear the family apart, get everybody on online dating, and get everybody spread out and not having families anymore. And then the 4D part of that is polyamory, and twin flames. And it's just, that's what it is right now. There's a 3D wake up level, and then there's a 4D wake up level. And right now, the Truth Network as a whole is failing really badly at the 4D wake up. And it's not anybody's fault. It's just, it's hard because when you first learn these spiritual things, especially when I can relate to it, because in 2008, 9, and 10, and 11, when I was learning all the channelings, I was just like these people are now. You hear about the Galactic Fed, you hear about all the Palladians and all these things. You're like, oh yeah, but then you're not realizing that if they infiltrated 3D, they infiltrated 4D. So that doesn't mean that the first thing you read about is going to be the right thing. And when you started seeing in 2020, like I think it was the Israel leader said something about the Galactic Federation on mainstream television. When you start seeing mainstream talk twin flame, start talking Galactic Fed, it needs to trigger something to you right away. There must be an agenda of something behind it, because mainstream speaking about it. You know what I mean?
So are you saying the Galactic Federation, which I know nothing about? I hear these things, and a lot of times I just go, oh, well, BS, or my meter goes up, or how do you really know? So, but I've heard people say recently that no, there's a Galactic Alliance. A Galactic Federation is like a psyop. What's your opinion on that?
Here's what I kind of break down even what happened with me with the whole thing, because I had started noticing that it's not the age of Aquarius when I learned the real astronomy things from Isaac Rodriguez. That, for those that don't know, there's 13 constellations that touch our ecliptic, and none of them are 30 degrees. They're all different measurements. For example, Virgo is in the galactic center. It's 48 days long, 48 degrees. They shrunk them all to fit the calendar. When I found that out, and then I see all these new age people, Galactic Federation website and all this stuff going, Age of Aquarius, Age of Aquarius, Age of Aquarius, when in reality we're 200 plus years away from the Age of Aquarius, started triggering me. And then all of a sudden kind of seeing all these different things. And then Gene Decode and Jason Q are my favorite two people to listen to in this. Jason, because of his very extensive research and his openness to not only 3D, but the 4D stuff, because he reads all the government stuff from the CIA. And then obviously Gene Decode has a lot of information about spiritual things because he's had near-death experiences. He said in an interview, Galactic Federation is 98.9% corrupt. They've infiltrated it, and it resonated with me. So I went out and publicly said something about it. And I could even go on my Instagram. They blocked that video on Instagram of when I talked about the Galactic Fed New Age woke agenda. So you already know when if they're blocking that video, I must have said something on there that was triggering to the truth. And it's just, again, they knew people were going to wake up out of 3D. They knew it was going to happen regardless. So they had to make a sub culture, a sub wake up place so they can catch us all again. You know what I mean? And that's a lot of what's happening right now. And I do believe that we're going to get through this. It's just kind of about people more touching base on what the hell's going on. And, so this kind of brings me into my...
And real quick, Tyler, don't feel any need to hurry through your information. If we have to do 2, 3, 4, 5 interviews to get through all of it, that's what we'll do.
Yeah.
So just relax and just go through it. Don't feel, I don't want you to feel rushed, right?
Yeah.
You're awesome. I'll definitely have you back on, and we can continue the conversation.
All right, cool. So I got through all that, but do you have any more questions about Galactic Federations? That's where all like the channelings come from. And yes, the Galactic Alliance is what I would more resonate with a title for them now.
If you can articulate what the Galactic Alliance is to a normie.
Okay. Well, there's
or a sleeper like me.
There's the Pleiadians, the Syrians, the Andromedans. I would say those three mainly are like some of the more positive ET companies,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's obviously draconians and all that, the dark side of the extraterrestrials. Supposedly they've all been in this galactic federation, even the draconians and whatever, in this kind of like universal law thing. There's a lot of people talk about this big spiritual war happening and all these different, battles going on in the astral realms. And, there's really zero way of truly saying 100% this, 100% that when
I
you're
agree.
getting channelings through people's bodies or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why, to me, from a research space, I know the roots of channelings, the books from 40 years ago, and I read those, and now I see that a lot of the stuff now is just that content altered. So
Mm-hmm.
that's
Mm-hmm.
why, to me, it made it even more obvious that there's something going on here with this whole galactic thing. And look, I don't know if you've ever seen the show Rick and Morty,
Mm-hmm.
but it is just a big, big kick in the mouth if you're awake to the agenda. The whole show is. I mean, the first scene that Rick opens up with is of the whole series is him sitting at the breakfast table telling Jerry, the dad, that Morty doesn't have to go to school because school's not a place for smart people. And like, it's just they put it in your face the whole time. And he fights in the Galactic Federation. There's a reason they called it the Galactic Federation. You know what I mean? And they're trying to get people ready to do that whole false alien invasion and call it the Galactic Federation and run it through all these people that are, getting lost in it. And that's why, like, I do hear Jason talks a lot about stuff that he reads on the Ascension glossary. And I'm saying I can't sit here and say any of it's definitely false or definitely positive, or definitely true or not. But you don't know. We don't necessarily know exactly what happened. You know what I mean? Like, to get us here. And from my viewpoint and my discovery, I feel like humans have been evolving like our bodies have forever long this has happened. And then like 20,000 years ago or so, the Anunnaki came here with all the DNA from all the other positive ETs that they made somewhere else and just started infiltrating humans with this DNA. So souls that didn't ascend in our other lives and our other past lives,
Mm-hmm.
we get another opportunity here, because they call this a fallen planet. It's supposedly the spot where all the souls went that didn't ascend. I got another thing for you. Jason recently has been talking a lot about the new map that he puts behind him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did you watch the Ewar Anand documentary, What on Earth Happened?
Mm-hmm.
And he talks about how the moon is actually a map for our Earth.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Well, the reason I feel that the stars are stationary like they are is because the stars are a map to the other terras. And when we were fully activated in Atlantis, we had Merkabas, which are like a triangle up, triangle down. They're like our soul's car or our soul's vehicle. And supposedly in every terra, there's 144,000 crystalline grid around the Earth. So we could teleport through that grid when we have our Merkabas activated. In Atlantis, our pineal gland was the size of a golf ball. Now it's the size of a pea. When the size of a golf ball, we could teleport all over the place.
Yeah.
So what I believe is that the stars are no different than the moon for us. The moon is our map in the Terra. The stars are our map around the 178 Terras for us to connect back. And that's why, like, when you look at that map, like when Jason did all the zoom in a few weeks ago, when you're seeing like there's Mars, there's Venus, you know what I mean? Because they're not really planets. They're other terras that we existed in. So that's when, like, you look at someone's natal chart, your which I believe is a karmic mapping for our souls. That's why it makes sense that, okay, you have your Venus here. When you were in Venus, this is what energy was going on when your soul was incarnated in Venus, and that will affect your personality or your journey here on this earth. You know what I mean? Maybe they were all things that we didn't grow through when we were in those different realities, and that's why we failed to ascend there and had to come back here. Maybe this is supposedly the last world, the final world, Middle Earth. You know what I mean? Maybe our souls have literally went through every planetary opportunity or every terrorist opportunity to ascend, and we failed 9 of them for all we know. We could have failed a ton of them to get to this final one. So just another perspective and kind of viewpoint of like how I kind of envision what that whole map represents and what's going on. But all that stuff again is just no one really knows until they stop everything, and like I think I'm gonna kind of cut some of my other content out and just kind of focus on talking about a little bit of this stuff for a moment.
Yeah, this
Um,
is just Tyler part one, so you're good.
yeah. Um, yeah, I just kind of wanted to talk about some of the things that you like post on your Telegram channel.
Sure.
I love when you bring like conversations up about, you know, what, especially when people like kind of like jump on you about this content or that content.
Mhm.
You know, so just where's my hold up for 2 seconds? Yeah. So yeah, I mean, a lot of people jump on truthers about profit and donation. I thought it was something I should just lightly address because I started doing profit, and then I just felt when I did first put my book out in 2015, we did well, and then like things kind of started falling apart in 2016, and ever since then I've always just done donation, and I just energetically feel way more genuine and real with it. And
Mhm.
you know, my dad used to have this saying because my dad's coached basketball and sports for 40 years, and he used to tell us players all the time about being humble and having humility. And
Mhm.
is that if you're good, you don't have to tell anybody; they'll tell you. And that's how I always felt with, especially spiritual people that are saying that do a lot of that. There's a lot of spiritual gaslight marketing where people like to be like, oh, I have so many followers and I'm so busy. I've taken too many
Mhm.
one-on-ones, but I am going to exclusively offer an ascension course. And it's
Yep.
just like, and then people take it and then they're upset that they took it because they could have just done all the research themselves and they could have, and then they paid the person money, you know? And that's why,
Yep.
like, if you're a legit healer or a legit spiritual person or a legit truther, you shouldn't need to ask for money because if you're good, people will tell you, you know, and then that, you know, they can donate on their own. That's why, like with you and Jason, the way you do it is just donate and appreciate, you know, and like certain people, certain truthers, you know, for example, like David Rodriguez, he was an ex-boxer. He came from the 3D world. You know what I mean? Now he wrote a book. He's trying to find a new way to establish his reality. And he's also someone that's allowed us access into him slowly evolving. So to him,
Mhm.
I got no problem with him charging money and doing what he's doing because he's at that point. He's not already spiritually evolved. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
he's someone that would do that. You know, like Mike Jocko has not only a lot of detailed information about what the hell's going on because of his background, but he also is an adult, I say an adult, but you know, someone that's over 50 who's had spiritual breaks. So for
Mhm.
him, I understand, and he's had his intuition secrets set up for before 2020 happened. I'm pretty sure. So I
Yeah.
mean, someone like that, he is a legit person, and I say he can charge, you know, for a counseling session or one like that because he has a legitimacy to him. Where other people are out here and they have X amount of followers that they got on Instagram or whatever, and they're all of a sudden promoting this, or they started a website, whatever. And I get it. I'm not trying to knock people's hustles, but at the same time, like if you're really from this fifth dimensional viewpoint and you're really you know, part of that idea,
Mhm.
you know, money is the biggest issue in society. You know, and I have a tough time even. I've always not liked money. From a young age, I've always just thought that it was just completely designed to suppress. And you know, I'm 100% with you guys, big on the white hat, big hat, white hat military and all that stuff. But why I'm actually doing one more little share screen here. You know, the doomers, I'm going to start talking about the doomers now. And the doomer
Mhm.
mentality, it happens to a lot of people because they get awake and then they get caught up in all this Trump, Mason, not nonsense is what I call it, honestly. You know what I mean? And maybe it's not. Maybe there is proof behind this, but I just want to show one thing on my Instagram thing that this one girl puts all this stuff out about flat Earth and it looks really cool and everything, and then she like it's like she baits you into you know, not seeing it. Hold up, man, just desktop, boom, share. I think it was sharing. Okay. Um but like they put little videos out like this and they expect this to prove to me that Trump is a Freemason. Trump is a Freemason. Trump named his slogan MAGA after the highest degree. And then they do this real quick thing. And it's like,
Right.
how do you expect anybody to look at these pictures? And again, all right, he might be doing these handshakes once in a while because how are you going to, you have to infiltrate over invasion. Somebody had to be,
Mhm.
you know, informant, you know what I mean? And the only reason I bring this stuff up is because I want people to see what we're up against. And this is what happens. Some of these photos even just look photoshopped to me. You know what I mean? And
Right.
like, I think it's important that people know that, you know, people are looking when there's so much anger and frustration out against Trump and all this stuff, people are just going to make stuff fit into an agenda. You know what I mean? And I had a doomer just the other day DM me. Let me go into my DMs and find this kid. Let's see.
It's funny because I've explained and debunked a lot of this stuff before. I believe we're in what's called a pendulum, and when I get time, I'm going to start writing about it because it's pretty interesting. It goes right in line with what you're talking about now.
Now this guy sent this to me. 33-degree Masons are sometimes referred to as a white hat within the fraternity. So immediately, and look at what site it's from, Freemason Community.
Right.
And I DM this kid back, and he claims that he's, I'm not really going to get into everything he claims that he is and go through it, but I DM this kid back, and he basically was like, I come from a Masonic family and a draconian bloodline, and I know that I'm not trying to say that we're doomed, but like, you know, I literally just had this conversation the other day because he put all this stuff up about the FEMA camps and trying to scare people. I'm like, dude, FEMA camps, and Jason told us that, you know, if they're going to use them for anything, they're going to use them to rehabilitate the vaccinated people. You know what I mean? If that's what happens, what happens. But why are you putting it out to research it like Hillary Clinton's about to throw us all in the FEMA camps when she's obviously not? You know, and like, it just sucks because once people get caught up into that doomer mentality and think Trump's bad, everybody's bad, the whole agenda's bad, you know, we're all going down. It's like, what's your solution then? That's why I always ask a doomer when they start getting at me in DM, go, then what do we do? What are you telling your children? And then they go, oh, they have no answer. They have no response. So it's like, you don't want to look at Q and let it play out. Doomers love to say, well, everything that Q said is not happening. What are you talking about? Half the things that Q has said is happening. You know what I mean? Like, that's the type of stuff. And that's the thing. And people are just like, don't have time to research. And a lot of people don't. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of good people, especially in the United States, who are just working and work 5-6 days a week. They have kids. They don't have time to sit down and research. And if they do a little bit and then confusion narratives come at them, they really don't want to even deal with it anymore. You know, so this whole information war is very real. And if you don't concretely dig yourself into some specific belief systems, but not as a belief system, but beliefs of, like, you know, everybody says use discernment. Well, you can't use discernment if you don't have a root belief. And to me, the root belief is human trafficking is a major issue. The satanic agenda is here, and the whole satanic religion, as Wano Saban has taught us in crazy detail, and then that whole documentary came out with the X Factor winner from Europe. It's very clear that their whole agenda is to invert everything that's naturally and trick us. They get off by tricking us. So if you think if you think everything's legit, then it's obviously not, because they're trying to trick you. You know, and like that type of stuff just. It makes it obvious to me with the Trump thing that, like, that's also why Q says it's going to be biblical, because what did they do to Jesus? What did they do to Julius Caesar? What did they do to Imhotep, who was the original Jesus in Egypt back 6,000 years ago? They made them blast for them, put them on a cross, killed them, whatever, and said, speak their word. If you speak their word, you die. I mean, when the whole Roman Catholics went around in a couple hundred years ago, they just forced everybody to be Roman Catholic. And if you weren't, they just killed you. They just killed tons of Native Americans when they came over here on the you know, with that, just because they wouldn't follow their religion. And it's just, a lot of this stuff to me is like, okay, you need to root your discernment in the fact that we are dealing with a satanic agenda that's been in charge of humanity for 6,000 years. And they're trying to fool you. And Trump, to me, is just the character of Jesus. Is he Jesus? No. Is there content out there that over glorifies him a little bit? Yes. Does that mean that's really what he is? No. You know, I'm more on the agreements with Jason, where, to me, everybody's clone that we see in society right now, Biden, Trump, all of them, you know what I mean? And they're being the Galactic Alliance, which you asked about before. They're the ones behind Trump, Melania, and Donald. They're the ones that are, you know, operating Elon right now. You know how much content is out about Elon being a piece of shit? You know what I mean? Like, and now all of a sudden he's doing all this stuff. Even, you know, it's all, to me, they're controlled out now. You know what I mean? They're just using their clone to put stuff out, because if you had Trump come out and buy Twitter, half of America who's still in the Trump illusion is going to say no. But when you have tech mogul Elon Musk buy it, and then Elon tech mogul, richest guy in the world, say that there's tons of bots on everything, people will listen to it. Sleeping people.
So you're saying they're controlled op for the good guys, though.
Yes.
Yeah. And people, I've been explaining this forever. People have to understand that it was Trump a Mason? I think he probably was, but it was as an infiltration to the Masonic Brotherhood. Now, I've explained the handshake thing forever because I've been in traveling, sales, marketing, and business for God knows how many decades, right? And I don't know how many times I reach out to shake somebody's hand and they either give me the fish hand, right? Or they short shake, I call it. And they're not trying to see if I'm a Mason. They're just kind of pulling back, or they're not that confident. And you only get this very small portion of their hand, right? If somebody would have taken 50 pictures of me, they would have seen that several times, right? And Trump takes a lot more pictures than I do, but they don't like to look at the big picture. I want to step on back to the Jesuit thing for a second, because this is where it all ties together. In my opinion, you were mentioning that people just don't understand this. This is a full agenda. So people need to go. I like to go back to the origins. And the reason why I like to use that, you tend to go back to the origin of something, right? So the Jesuits were formed under Ignacio, I believe, Saint Ignacio, right? Anyways, what happened is there was something called Protestantism, which are the Protestants back in the day, that there was a group of them that were very upset because the Roman Catholic Church would put the church and the Pope above God when they spoke. So they weren't doing anything bad. They were just coming out and they were literally flyering neighborhoods and saying, be careful of the Roman Catholic Church, because they're putting the Pope and they're putting the church before God, right? That's it. So the Pope got together and they actually formed the Jesuits, which is the military arm at the time of the Pope, to go ahead and destroy the Protestants. Literally, they went to kill them just because of that message. And then the Jesuits then they go in and start doing everything you're saying. They're like, oh, look at all the power we have. And then it built and it built and it built, and it's full control after that. So if people understand the origin of this stuff, it's absolutely full control. And let me ask anybody a question that doesn't like a Trump or anybody. How in order would you fight thousands of years of this demonic agenda if you don't infiltrate the bad guys? If one person could explain how you would do that, then I would believe that all these other people are bad guys. You have to infiltrate them. There's no other way.
I like to say, name one big takedown of organized crime that didn't have an informant in it.
Yeah.
There's none.
There's none. You're absolutely right.
The only way you could take down organized crime is through informants. It has to be done that way. There's no question about it. And also, the other day you put something up where you like, what people are always asking, what can they do? What can they do? Everybody's kind of the same thing as, get involved with your community, talk to your local sheriff, this and that. And honestly, my response to that would be, have tough conversations.
Mm-hmm.
Learn how to present information that is going to trigger somebody, and let them get triggered and be calm.
Yeah.
Put the information in front of them. Let them get mad. Let them scream. Let them stomp, and stay calm. One more quick screen share. I just want to show this one thing, because this is one of the big things that I put in front of people all the time when they want to question things. I go, do you know about human trafficking? They go, yeah, I've heard about it. I'm sure it's real. I say, do you know who Tim Tebow is? Most people know who Tim Tebow is. I go, do you know what Tim Tebow is about, what he's known for? And some people know, some people don't. But Tim Tebow is Christian. And what do Christians do? They don't lie. This is a very devoted Christian who didn't have sex before marriage. And now Tim Tebow runs the Tim Tebow Foundation that literally rescues human trafficking victims. And in August of last year, on his birthday, he used his birthday to put the real stats of human trafficking out. And this is something I put in front of people's face all the time. I say human trafficking is a $150 billion annual year industry. That's bigger than every other black market industry in the world. Mm-hmm. The United States is the #1 consumer. So tell me, do you know anybody who owns a slave? I don't. No one ever has an answer to say, yeah, I know someone does, because they don't.
Mm-hmm.
So who the hell is spending, if we're the leading consumer of $150 billion annual year industry, who is spending that money? Who can spend that money?
Mm-hmm.
Even if we're 1/5 of that, you're talking about $30 billion a year in the United States being spent. And when you put something like that in front of somebody who's been in denial about human trafficking or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
they're forced to face it. And that's what I would suggest people to do. You want to help wake people up? Put information into their face that they can't deny and give them the proof by
Mm-hmm.
something like I just showed you, even that simple Tim Tebow thing. And then you can start unraveling things from that point. Say, okay, if they're spending that much money on human trafficking in our country and we don't know anybody personally who does that, maybe it's the media. Maybe it's the famous people. Maybe it's the politicians. And then people can start working the stuff out and say, oh, maybe this is why they think that. Human trafficking is this huge thing. And then no one even talks about it. And I always like to also finish with saying, hey, why does the media not talk about human trafficking? It's not because of the victims. It's because of the consumers of it. And people need to think about that. And that's, again, to the point of me saying having discernment. That Tim Tebow stat right there is my black line, flat line for my discernment. Because if you are going to overlook the fact that we have a $150 billion slavery industry in the world right now and pretend that it's not there, then you're not trying to help anything. You know what I mean? And
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic advice. That is fantastic. Tyler, this has been amazing. You're going to come back several times because I know you have a wealth of information, and I don't want to pigeonhole you into an hour, and say, give it all to me. I'm excited. Is there anything you want to leave our audience with just for today? And then we'll go from there.
That Tebow thing was a good one to end on.
Yeah,
That's kind of why
I love it. I love it.
A good thing for people to be able to use for your own ability, especially with your family members. I mean, right now, I'm seeing it a lot being in New York. I'm in a very sleeping area. I mean, 90% of the people around me are vaccinated. 97% of them are asleep. So it's just, but you're seeing people start getting flexed about the gas, and they're getting scared about the World War III scare stuff. So now is a good time throughout the summer, to get people in a conversation and say, look at this. This is real. This is not something that I found on some backdoor website. This is Tim Tebow. And if you want to hear him, he'll speak about it. You can go look up videos of Tim talking about it. And I think he is there's a reason that the white hat, and he's a big example to me that the white hats is real and this whole movement is happening because you couldn't have picked a better person to represent that role in society right now. Because there's no way you can sit here and say, Tim Tebow is a liar. He's a fake. You can't. You know what I mean? There's just no way, and that's what you need to find while you're trying to help people wake up and help people see is black and white facts, black and white evidence that they can't deny. And that to me is just, you can't get any more black and white than that, But yeah, Louis, thank you. I appreciate it, man.
Oh, of course. This has been beautiful. And for now, guys, also Tyler's information is going to be in the description below. So please contact him, get his book, help him out, donate whatever you can. This cat is real, and he's bringing the real information. And I really appreciate it because I know how you've been suppressed on so many different platforms. So my goal is to get this information and get your name out there. So I appreciate everything you're doing. And this is some badass stuff. Thank you very much, Tyler.
Thank you, Louis. I appreciate it.